Reflect on a time you wish you could pause. Where are you? You just placed I in two places. This is Pause Twice. Pause Twice is a Sweet Stories podcast designed to share experiences of brands, businesses, and beings. On this channel, we share stories of self-made moguls, minds, and mentors, offering insight into how today's brands, businesses, and beings evolve across industries and dimensions. Each episode explores the intersection of personal growth, creative entrepreneurship, and market strategy, guided by our mission to inspire, inform, innovate, and immerse. With a mission to inspire, inform, innovate, and immerse the listeners, the viewers, and the creators, Sweet Stories invites you to tune in, turn off, and press play on today's self-made story. What if your biggest brand breakthrough had nothing to do with color palettes or logos, but everything to do with how you think? Welcome to Pause Twice, a Sweet Stories podcast, where identity isn't just designed, it's redefined. I'm your host, Amera, and today we're diving deep into how reframing your mindset rewires your brand power, from your business card to your bottom line. Why rewiring comes before rebranding. We're not talking about surface level updates here. We're talking about a psychological shift. Today's episode is for anyone navigating an identity shift, whether it's personal, professional, or both. Whether you're a real estate agent, a founder, or brand builder, you're not just selling a service, you're shaping perception. In this episode, you'll learn how identity design starts in the brain and how the right internal reframe can position your business externally for massive growth. Because before you rebrand your business, you have to rewire your belief system. And that begins in the brain. What reframing actually does. So let's start here. Reframing. Reframing is not positive thinking, nor is it wishful thinking. It's a neurological decision. It's not a motivational mantra. It's a neurological strategy, a design decision about how you interpret your reality. Every time you reframe a moment, an emotion, or a story, you're literally changing how your brain processes the experience, how your body holds on to it, and how your brand expresses it. I am going to describe to you through how it works so you can imagine what's happening in your brain. First, reframing activates your prefrontal cortex. That's the logic and planning center of your brain. So when you consciously pause to reflect, you shift from reaction to intention. That alone is powerful. Second, it calms your amygdala. That's your emotional alarm system. By interrupting the flight or fight stress loop, you return to clarity, creativity, and presence. Third, reframing changes the way your brain stores memories, what we call narrative encoding. So, if you shift a story from I failed to I learned, your brain begins to file that experience as strength, not shame. Fourth, your brain's reticular activating system, or RAS, begins to scan for patterns of opportunity instead of patterns of threat. Fifth, you create cognitive distance. what's called cognitive reappraisal. You begin to ask, what else could this mean? And with that space, you get choice. You get power. And sixth, over time, these reframes reinforce neuroplasticity. That's your brain's ability to adapt, to grow, and to update its defaults. And this is why transformation isn't just about design. It's about decision making, emotional intelligence, and presence. Organizational transformation also starts in the brain. So what does this have to do with branding? Everything. Because in branding, the biggest breakthroughs aren't in the colors or the logos. They're in cognition. When a real estate agent, a founder, or a creative can reframe a past setback into a setup for reinvention, that identity becomes not just stronger, but scalable. I'm referencing The Neuroscience of Leadership by David Rock and Jeffrey Schwartz when I say true change requires conscious repetition. In personal branding and identity design, that means practicing your presence until it becomes your brand identity. In fact, organizational transformation also starts in the brain. In the same article, The Neuroscience of Leadership, researchers explain that new behaviors begin in the prefrontal cortex, but only become sustainable when repeated into the basal ganglia, which is your habit center. So, if you're rebranding your business without rewiring your behavior, it won't stick. You'll revert to past self you, the other habit you, and age, lifestyle, storyline conditioned you, accessing the same old tools, the same old templates, and the old identity defaults, built by your default systems. Fix and 6, the brand identity reframe. You don't have to change everything overnight. Just reframe your reality, one belief at a time. We'll get more specific now that you have the why. You are wired in a way. Once you have your why, you're on your way to where. And here's how reframing applies within every level of your brand. Say you're a real estate agent operating within a local office that's your brokerage, and you have the corporate branding. That's your job, your career, and your representation. In addition to you and your identity and your personality and your style of self. So how is reframing a part of this? Corporate identity becomes cultural change. A new CRM, a new listing system, or a new agent portal won't land unless the team reframes how they show up to use it. Brokerage's objectives require behavioral identity. Modern brokerages are asking for more than productivity now. They're asking for presence, and presence requires self-belief, that consistency in character. Personal branding becomes neurobranding. It's not about saying, I sell homes. It's about embodying. I design lifestyle narratives through property. That's identity. That's emotion. That's what makes you memorable. Can you think of what you do and reframe it into a who I am statement? Here's my Fix and 6 framework for brand identity shifts. 1. Pause, process, prefrontal power. This is your lens. what you're seeing with, viewing with. 2, fear to flow. Flip the fight or flight. That's a switch. 3, rewrite, rename, and reclaim the story. These are the captions you're reading, or now the captions that you're writing. 4, spot the spark, not the scar. You can change the channel. 5, step back, see big, shift belief. You can turn up the volume, turn down the volume. And 6, repeat the reframe and rewire the brain. Subscribe to that channel that you just decided to follow. Add it to your favorites. That's the picture, that's the image that you're choosing to view. Brand identity in real estate and reputation. Here's an example that can help us bring us back into this moment and shift into the present. I want you to picture this. You're standing in a sunlit living room on a Saturday morning. The coffee in your hand is in a branded cup and it's still warm. The scent of cedar and citrus lingers in the air. The playlist is subtle, thoughtful. The property that you're at isn't just staged, it's felt. The visitors that are arriving aren't there to just see a house. They're starting to feel a story. And you're not just the listing agent. You're like the producer of the event, taking your vision and your experience and transforming it into a physical, emotional space. Now they're feeling a story, your story. And then they remember. They remember how that space made them feel. Comfortable, seen, excited. And they remember that voiceover that you recorded in the digital brochure. They remember your mood, your vibe, and the presence that you brought to the experience. Because you didn't just show a listing, you curated a memory. You designed a moment that stayed with them. Longer than any flyer, email, or promotional offer could ever. Now that's identity. That is brand architecture. That's reframing in real time. And now we pause twice. I have a question for you. What kind of memory will your next client walk away with? So far, in this episode, we've shared how identity design starts in the brain, how the right internal reframe can position your business externally for massive growth, and how you can reframe in 6 steps. Now, take a few minutes with me to reframe your identity with this mini practice. This is a step-by-step reframing and identity meditation available for you to pause twice and reflect. It's inspired by EMDR and somatic awareness narrative therapy. Now, notice the narrative. Start with, a moment that felt difficult for me was. Now sit comfortably. Recall a moment that brought strong emotion. No need to fix it. Just name it. Then feel the feedback. In my body, I noticed ... And scan your body. Where does that moment live in you? Is there heat in your ears? Is your jaw tight? Now, reveal the belief. The belief that came up to me was, observe the belief as a storyboard. Let the raw story rise. Maybe it's old. Maybe it's untrue. 4, trace the thread. This reminded me of connect to the moment, to a point of origin, an age, a location, or a memory, and zoom out. Then rewrite the reality. A new perspective I can hold is ... Now that you've witnessed the old frame, change the scene label, the observer, or the story title. This is your brand edit. Then anchor the identity. In my body, I now feel, and tune into your body again. Locate the shift. Is it mental, physical, spiritual, emotional? Affirm and activate. My affirmation is ... Choose one phrase that captures your new frequency and summarize this phrase in a possessive form for present-day self-identity. And be sure it includes the words mine, my, or me. Now, because you rewrote the moment, your memory now works for you, not against you. You didn't just think differently, you felt it. You reframed your identity as a conscious creator in real time. You can use this mini journaling meditation to shift how you see a moment, a belief, or even a brand story that's no longer serving you. Also available to you is the self map to self-made, to turn that inner clarity into external strategy. And the link for the self map to self-made is in the bio of this video. Remember, identity isn't what's written on your name tag. It's what's felt in the brand experience. Reframing isn't wishful thinking. It's a neurological decision to reinterpret reality. And this is how future-forward entrepreneurs, designers, and visionaries begin to build what doesn't exist yet by rewiring the brain first. If today's episode resonated with you, here's how we can stay connected online anytime. Subscribe to this podcast on YouTube. Search for Pause Twice Sweet Stories. Share this podcast with someone who's building their brand or growing their identity. And visit sweetstories.com for design solutions or book a discovery session and learn more about Advertainment. Thank you for listening. Thank you for pausing twice with me. And thank you for designing your next reality. Thoughtfully, powerfully, and in alignment with who you're becoming. And if it's the first time you're hearing this today, thank you for being you. Thank you for being here. Stay connected, stay sweet. This is Pause Twice, a Sweet Stories podcast. Thank you for listening to this episode of Pause Twice. I'm Amera, and I'd love to stay connected with you at Sweet Stories. Sweet Stories is online anytime. Be sure to find Pause Twice on your podcast streaming channels and watch on YouTube. Remember to subscribe for recent episodes, and if anything inspired, informed, innovated, or immersed you into the new and next, share the sweetness. Go press play on your brand experience and ask yourself, where will I pause twice? This is Pause Twice, powered by Sweet Stories, the Advertainment company.